Hello and welcome to episode 148 of the HamCorp Training Manual. In this episode, we start the long path of Eye of Harmony progression. We get our initial white dwarf matter and progress to the third tier of spacetime field generators. We also find a problem with the antimatter setup and find a hotfix for it. And finally, we begin scaling power, since the Eye of Harmony is a more monstrous power devourer than anything else thus far. I've had my Eye of Harmony running for a few hours now, and things are going pretty well. I noticed actually that I don't need to turn this off or on at all. I can just leave it on forever, because undersupplying hydrogen and helium doesn't matter. The recipe won't craft until it has enough. So there's no redstone logic needed there as long as the exact minimum amount is provided, which I am doing because of the pattern. And in fact, I could probably pattern this to be white dwarf matter instead of overworld paper, but then I would have to be a little bit careful to not request more than one craft's worth of white dwarf matter. And I think I have an idea for how to deal with that, and it includes a level maintainer and a subnet. But to test it, I need this recipe to complete, so that's another 45 minutes, so I won't be able to do that for a little bit. In the meantime, I have slightly changed my plan for how to progress the Eye of Harmony. Right now it's all 111, as you know. But I could make these primitive spacetime compression field gens, which makes it 211. And the reason I want to do that is because I noticed in the recipes that actually for the crude tier of recipes, I get 8 ingots worth of white dwarf matter. But in the primitive tier, I get 32. The time taken is doubled, but I get 4 times the white dwarf matter. So it's just better to do this. So I've started crafting up all of the subcomponents for the primitive spacetime compression field gens. I need to double check to make sure I don't need to upgrade any of the other components, like the time dilation and the stabilization field gens, but I don't think I do. I think I still have a pretty good success chance. It might even be 100% with the tier 2 field gens. Crafting it is kind of the same thing as the tier 1. It just needs more stuff. That's about it. And it takes a lot longer. And in fact, each tier of these field gens seems to take more and more time as the tier increases. Seems to be 4,000 seconds times the tier number. So yeah, it is definitely going to need a set of advanced assembly lines just for these, so I can take advantage of the parallels. But for now, I'm going to craft up the tier 2 compression field gens, upgrade this, and continue the wait. Couple of hours later, I have my primitive spacetime field gens. I've made an extra one, and I'm currently scanning it so I can make the next tier, which is called stable. I will slowly start building up to this in the background. But for now, let's swap out these field gens and also swap out the recipe that I'm doing. Okay, a 211 Eye of Harmony. Now, I have access to the Mars recipe, and I have already made the Mars planet. It's pretty easy, it just needs some Mars blocks. Nothing too hard to get. But I have run into a logistical challenge here. I tried a whole subnet system here to deal with this, and it didn't work. So that sucks. That was a waste of time. But I think I have something that works now. So the problem is, I was trying to pattern the white dwarf matter with the 3 billion hydrogen and helium inputs. But the problem is 3 billion is more than the integer limit, which means interfaces are not able to handle it, which was bizarre, but that kind of broke the entire system I had set up, which I'm still a bit salty about. But I think the way for me to solve this is, again, to use a renamed piece of paper. I'll just use the overworld paper again, because why not? But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the hydrogen and helium inputs again, and I'm going to set them to 1 billion each. But what I need to do from now on, and it's a bit of a hassle to have to remember this and change it every time. I'll try to come up with something new, but what I have to do is I need to request overworld 3 times to get one craft going. So let's see if this actually works. Hopefully it does. I don't want to have to re-record this again. So if I request 3 overworlds, let's see, it should start putting fluids inside. Yeah, that's good. I really should set up the IO port to make it a bit faster, but this is fine. Well, I'll be back if this successfully puts in 3 billion of the gases. Okay, I quickly set up the IO port idea I had, and I was right. It is much, much faster. This number is going up way quicker than before. Let me quickly explain this. So what happens now is the blue subnet is the old subnet that you remember. And now instead of storing the fluids directly in the input hatch, I have it stored in an ME drive. I guess I have two fluid digital singularity cells, one for hydrogen, one for helium. And what happens is this item conduit is set to blacklist the empty singularity cell. So once there's stuff inside, it'll pull the singularity cell. That goes into the IO port. This is set to move to output when empty. So it'll constantly drain the cells and stuff it into these hatches much more rapidly than the old setup. And once they're empty, they get pulled back in here, and because of the blacklist, it can't be pulled again. This is much faster, which is great, and we're ready to start. This should be more than an hour. The craft, I mean. Oh wait, let me see how much power this takes. So I have 16 quintillion at the start, almost 17. And it cost me 4. That's a lot. Oh, look at this. It has its moon. I think that's what it's supposed to be. But this is cool. Also, where was the sound effect last time? This sounds cool. Alright, I'll be back in 4,409.9 seconds. Oh my god. Actually, I won't. It's gonna take even longer. Because I need 20 buckets of molten white dwarf matter. Each craft here gives me a bit more than 4.5, and I currently have a bit less than 2.5. So I need to do this craft about 4 times to get enough white dwarf matter to upgrade my spacetime compression field gens. And I believe this has a 90% chance of success. Does it say that here? Yeah, recipe success chance 90%. The odds are in my favor, but I could get unlucky here. That would suck. Extra time waiting? Ugh. That's not great. Well, I did get unlucky, and my recipe failed once out of the 4 times, so I had to run it 5 times to get enough white dwarf matter. But now that's done, and I have stable compression field gens. That's good. I've already scanned one for the next tier, the advanced tier. And right now I'm crafting up the stuff needed for these, and it seems like every tier basically needs sort of double the items that the previous tier did, approximately, and it takes an additional 4,000 seconds. So infrascaling would be pretty nice to do, especially circuits. Yeah, especially circuits. Anyway, before I swap out these field gens, I just want to say something about my antimatter situation. I've noticed 2 things. So first of all, the HV pump or HV regulator that I had, that was no longer sufficient. I found that after a certain point, I had more antimatter in the super tank than I would have liked to have, just because the regulator wasn't fast enough to keep pumping it away. That's easily solved though by just making it an IV regulator and increasing the fluid threshold here. So that was pretty easy. But a more major issue, this breaks on server restart. It seems like the order in which the P2Ps are bound either randomizes or resets to something, or I don't know, something like that, which means that after a server reset, this P2P tunnel, which is critically supposed to be the one that is connected last, is no longer considered the one that's connected last. So I don't know if there's a way to ensure that it's always the one that's last upon server reset. I have a feeling it's just random, but maybe it's not random. I don't really know exactly how the logic works. But yeah, it's problematic because it starts voiding antimatter just because of how the multi works. So I have some signs here just elaborating on how to fix, and I just need to come here and do it every time I start the server, which is fine for now, but maybe it'll get annoying later on. And the fix here is to rebind the overflow P2P, which is that one. So I just need to break it, place it, bind it again. Pretty simple. And I need to reset the rebalancer. That's also pretty easy. I had this lever here from a long time ago when I was testing this. That basically does that. So check this out though. I have over 1 million antimatter now, but I still want to get to 12 million before I can actually start burning it. The funny thing now is I actually don't burn my Mark 6 NAC fuel fast enough. So I need to make more large naquadah reactors, which is going to increase my power gain, which is nice as a side effect, but mostly for this. Anyway, let's swap out these field generators. Right, so now I have a 3-1-1 Eye of Harmony, but I think I think I should make this 3-3-1 by upgrading the time dilation field gens. It cuts down a lot on the waiting time. In fact, without upgrading those, I would be waiting about 6,000 seconds for each recipe. But with it, that brings it down to about 1,500 seconds, which is much better. There are two concerns with this. One of them sort of doesn't matter, which I'll say right now. So first of all, it decreases the probability of a recipe succeeding. But even accounting for that, it should be faster to do it this way. But the second, more major problem is that I don't make enough power to keep that going. If I were to just do it like this without upgrading this would be a lot less of a strain on my power system. So I think right now I will not upgrade. I don't know. It's hard to say because scaling power right now is just a matter of me waiting for antimatter. I mean, I can make more Dysons, I guess. That's kind of boring though, but I could, and I probably will. But I may as well get at least one craft of this going in the meantime. And of course, now that I have tier 3 spacetime field gens, I can use a tier 3 planet. And I will be using asteroids for no particular reason. I just saw that it gives me naquadah, and I thought, I could use naquadah. Each recipe now is going to give me 128 ingots of white dwarf matter. Each craft here requires me to have 6.36 times 10 to the 18 power in my storage. And I have like half of that. So I'll make the asteroid thing and I'll put it inside, but this thing is going to be off for a little bit because I just need my power to recover. So, power scaling. Oh hey, you know what I haven't checked on in a long time? My Godforge. And I think I do have, I have 12 graviton shards now. So I think I can buy 2 more upgrades. So the synthetic element decay stabilization upgrade allows me to do up to tier 5 plasmas in the plasma fabricator. That's pretty nice. And paradoxical attainment allows the exoticizer to be affected by other upgrade benefits, but the benefits are nerfed. I don't use the exoticizer yet, but I'm gonna need this for progression anyway, so construct. Once I get 6 more graviton shards, I can construct the second ring of the Godforge. I do have to submit some materials here, but these don't look too bad to me. The worst is probably the Mega Ultimate Battery, 2 of them. Each one of them needs 8 insanely ultimate batteries, so this is gonna hurt a little bit. Well, I need to wait for graviton shards first anyway, so not too bothered about it just yet. I'm gonna make some more naquadah reactors, clean up this pipe spaghetti. I don't know which way to expand, probably this way. What is this way? Looks like, I'm about to be under the original starter home. Okay. Yeah, okay, then I will be expanding that way to add more LNRs. I only have 8 right now. I think I'll make 24 more, so it's up to 32. Okay, cool. All right. Large NAC reactors, 32 of them. I've changed the layout a little bit, and I've made it a little more expandable. Those are all at bedrock now, and I'm using active transformers to reduce the amount of cable spaghetti. And this makes almost 20 trillion EU per tick. That is more than my Dysons. The only issue is I don't think I make Mark 6 NAC fuel fast enough to keep this going all the time. I would be very surprised if I did, so I probably need to go upgrade that as well. I don't know though, this is only going down sort of slowly, but it is going down. Anyway, I'm gonna let my antimatter build up some more. I'm gonna make more EOH parts. Still a massive wait to go. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, we will continue on with EOH progression, obtaining black dwarf matter and hopefully Universium as well, but I wouldn't count on it. We will also construct more circuit assembly lines and more advanced assembly lines dedicated to circuit fabrication, along with another set specifically for Eye of Harmony parts. See you next time.